It seems like every couple of weeks, someone claims their robot can finally do chores, and most of the time thus far, it's been smoke and mirrors. But this new demo from a tiny Chinese startup called Mind On Tech has the robotics world absolutely losing its mind. It's a unitree humanoid robot doing everything from watering plants to ironing sheets, fluidly, fast, and supposedly without human control. And it might just mark the moment household robots got real. Let's take a look. Hey y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All. So the past couple of days, this little video from Mind On Tech has got a lot of people very excited about its capabilities. And the more important part is it's gotten a lot of AI experts excited about it. So why are they so excited? Well, I think the obvious thing to do is to start with looking at the video itself. So I downloaded the video to play it, but it's a kind of a weird format. It's not rectangular, it's more of a square format. So I'm just putting myself over here on the side. Anyway, we'll play it without sound because of course it's got music in it and the music is not particularly useful to hear anyway. So you can see the company is Mind On, and they've built the brain that goes into a Unitree G1 robot. This humanoid robot is not theirs. The hardware is different. And I think that that's an important point. So I just want to make a note of that we've actually got a separation of the brain and the body here. And that's a significant step away from the trend for all of these companies to vertically integrate the software and the hardware. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. But anyway, first of all, the video. So you can see it's just about 2 minutes and 25 seconds long. I'm going to play it through and I'll stop it and do things anyway. So Mind On. So this motion first was what really captured me. It's this one right there. So that kind of violent sort of sweeping motion, very, very impressive work, full body control. And of course, it's manipulating soft objects like obviously the curtain here in this case. Now you can see this is just a 2-finger gripper. It's not an actual human hand. So there's none of the dexterity that you have, but this thing actually has pretty amazing stuff it can do considering it's just a 2-finger gripper that it's got. So here you can see it's moving away and it's going to stand up. So it's watering plants and it then moves and stands up on this. That is a very impressive thing. I mean, for me personally, to watch it stand up like that with that amount of confidence. And you can see it's rocking. It's not perfectly stationary when it's up there, but it's maintaining balance and it's able to get up. And then that motion right there, let's go back and watch that again, because that is really cool. The way that it actually steps off of the stool there or the bench is very human. It spreads its legs out and does kind of a man spread, right? And then it turns and pivots away. That type of motion there is what's got people really going wild because that's very, very impressive. It's able to maneuver its body that way. But anyway, let's go back really quick to watch it step back up again onto the bench and then note that it does sway while it's watering the plant. So it's not perfectly rigidly still, which means there are still control oscillations with anybody who's done any kind of robotics work over the years. I'm sure you know getting that oscillation to go away is very, very difficult. So even with neural networks, you've still got that problem, but I want to make a note of this. So anyway, you can see watering the plants, and it says no speed up, no teleoperation. So it's doing this at full speed and it's doing it autonomously. And you can see here, right there, as it starts to do that, it starts to oscillate itself. And fine, you know, that's no big deal. It's not like it's going to fall over. And that motion is extremely impressive. It's just like so cool. And speaking of the oscillation, Scott Walters said specifically to this, why does the bot suddenly develop a case of vertigo when it stands on the bench to water plants? Is it a mocap artifact of an operator with acrophobia? I'm sure he's being silly about that, but I have a feeling that Scott actually knows the answer to this because he's probably done enough PID type programming and stuff to see those sort of oscillation loops that happen. But what's fascinating to me is seeing that actually occur in a robot that's based on a neural network instead of a traditional type of PID controls. So really interesting, and it feels to me a little bit like what you see with Tesla with its brake stabbing and things like that. In the latest version of Full Self-Driving 14, especially the earlier versions like 14.1.1 and things like that, where you'd see a lot of brake stabbing, that felt like it was the same sort of oscillation behavior because it wasn't integrating enough information over time and controlling itself like slowly enough, basically. So that's my kind of guess as to why it's doing that, and that will get taken care of over time. But it is really interesting to note that. As I'm sure you know, I'm constantly researching AI, Tesla, and technology, and I read a lot, but there's way more great content out there than anyone has time for. That's why I've actually used Shortform for almost 2 years now, and it's become my go-to learning tool. Shortform makes super-powered guides to the best nonfiction books, not just quick summaries, but deep, well-written breakdowns that actually teach you the ideas better than most people get from reading the book once. It's like having your smartest friend explain the key insights, connect them to other books, books and show you how they all fit together. Take Never Split the Difference. The short form guide doesn't just summarize the negotiation tactics, it ties them to psychology and cognitive biases from thinking fast and slow, then compares them to classics like Getting to Yes. You end up understanding the why behind every strategy. And they've got guides across every topic: business, self-improvement, technology, even psychology and money. Plus, new ones drop every week, and subscribers can even vote on what comes next. And the newest thing I love, Shortform AI, their browser extension. It instantly summarizes any article, blog, or even YouTube video with one click. It's wild, and it saves me so much time staying up to date on AI papers and tech news. If you want to learn faster and smarter like I do, go to shortform.com/drknowitall. You'll get a free trial and 3 months off their annual plan. Again, that's shortform.com/drknowitall. Seriously, if you love learning but don't have hours to read every book on your list, Shortform is a game changer. Check it out. Links in the description and pinned comment. A big thanks to Shortform for sponsoring today's episode, and now let's get back to it. Here, it's able to pick up a box, probably empty. It's unclear whether it's got any weight in it, but that's very cool that it's able to bring it inside for the children. They're very happy about their present, I guess. And of course, it's doing this all while wearing a robot butler too. And now we've got it. It's actually kneeling on the bed to steam clean the mattress, which is really, really impressive. So you can see the hands, if we stop this, are not very impressive at all. In fact, I'm not sure that these are even the grippers in the other one. I think that this is some sort of just pole thing that sticks into the little steam cleaner or vacuum cleaner or whatever that thing is. But the important part here is the way that it's just on its knees with one hand balancing itself. Very, very human-like, the way that it's able to do that. So that's the impressive part here. The human, hand dexterity, not at this point, but the ability to control this robot's body to do useful work. I mean, this is actually useful work, right? We're not talking about doing flips and kung fu and stuff, which is very impressive, but that's not useful work. This is useful work, useful chores. So again, you can see it's kind of moving it back and forth, and it's able to crawl on the bed. And now, of course, it's able to clean up a table, and it's able to, I think it's brushing crumbs into, So it's unclear whether there's any actual crumbs, but I mean, that's really cool. It's able to kind of squat down. It's able to pick up, again, a deformable object, which is difficult. And I guess it's able to understand that it needs to go into the trash because it would be trash. And it's able to squat under a table. That is really cool motion. I think that one's worth a pause on again. I mean, that is very cool. Look at that. You can see here that it's got the gripper things, unless maybe the gripper extends. It looks like the grippers are a different extension onto the arm. But anyway, this is very impressive here. That's a motion that is very, very human and pretty necessary to be able to get under the table to grab a piece of trash or whatever that is. It looks like another bag that's sitting under the table at that kind of awkward angle. So really impressive stuff here. So anyway, it picks it up a little bit slow, but then it stands up like just like that. It's so cool. It's not, slow and jerky, able to pick up things and obviously sort them. We've seen a lot of other robots, including Optimus, be able to do color sorting and stuff. But here the kid comes in and gives him a bunch of new things. You can also see that it's kind of a cobot because it's around a child, a human being. So it's not having to be isolated out and anything. So it's able to do I guess it's putting the soft toys in one and the hard toys in the other. Yeah. So it looks like the car, because that's a hard toy, a hard plastic toy, and the soft toys go into the soft toy basket. So very cool that it's able to do that, and it's able to operate around a human like that too. So let's back this up and see how well it throws this. I'm not sure. Let's see. I mean, it went somewhere, right? Go fetch children. I guess that's kind of what it was doing. But anyway, it's very cool that it was able to run. I think that's the more impressive part again. And it's cool that it's able to manipulate those objects. But one more time, watch, it's actually running and then throws the frisbee. And it stops, and it does it very, very well. So these are really, really impressive body controls, which is why people are going crazy. So again, leaning over, able to adjust itself when it picks up an object, and it's able to pick up multiple objects. And then the person comes in with like a pole and starts manipulating. Yeah, so he starts moving it around, and it's able to track and track and track and track and eventually get the bear and grab it. So it's able to correct in real time for trajectory. So it's not just static objects. It's not like, hey, here's a pen sitting here, I will reach over and grab it. But if somebody starts moving the pen around, it's able to adjust itself, which is really impressive stuff. This is the kind of thing that pre-neural networks was basically impossible. And now we're starting to see that capability exist in neural networks. And of course, the dexterity to be able to pick up objects and move them around. And of course, the semantic segmentation of the universe to know what is a soft toy, what is a hard toy, what is trash on the floor, where is the waste basket, the stuffed animals, where do the stuffed animals go? All of that that kind of stuff is really impressive. And of course, watering plants, knowing what a plant is and what a watering container is and how you would water a plant and approximately how much time you would water each plant. I'm not sure. Kind of just dumped a little water on each one, but still, this is a lot of intelligence that is built into this robot, which is why people are going so crazy for it. And so there are a ton of reactions from the public, but more importantly from AI experts on both X and on Reddit. And we can start with the very first comment under here from Chao Yi Pan, who says, wow, the best whole body manipulation demo ever. Is this a combination of optimized whole body reinforcement learning controller plus teleoperation? And obviously he's not talking about here because it said no teleoperation here, but I think what he's saying is in the training set, did they begin the bootstrapping process by doing teleoperation and putting somebody in a suit and having them move around and then doing reinforcement learning on top of that? That would be my guess as to how they did it, but we don't know exactly at this point. And if we look here, of course, this is not just some random person off the street, right? He's got a PhD from Carnegie Mellon and works in AI at Meta. So, I mean, this is somebody who's a big deal and is excitedly complimenting this, and he's not the only one by any means. And then we have Chris Paxton from Agility Robotics reposting Michael Khalil's post here, which discusses the fact that this company only started in May of 2025, launched by two Tencent researchers, and I'm going to butcher their names, I really apologize, Zhu Qingzhu and Zhu Qingqing. I'm sorry, I'm sure that is absolutely horrible. But anyway, this company is only like 6 months old at this point. So this is very, very impressive that they're able to build this. But of course, being able to build software on hardware is a really big deal. It's the equivalent of your computer. There are many more software companies than there are hardware companies building computers. And so to my mind, this actually opens up the idea of separating out hardware and software. And you could have multitudes of software companies building on a relatively few hardware platforms. So Unitree, Ubitech, Scott and I just talked about them yesterday. If you haven't seen that video, you can catch it right up here. And of course, the Xipeng Iron Robot, Tesla's Optimus, 1X's Neo, and Figure Robotics, Aptronic, etc., depending, of course, on these hardware companies opening up their platform for other people to build software on top of them. And really interestingly enough, that could lead to the Apple/Android phone world, where we get hardware companies that are very proprietary, that are like, we're going to build the hardware and the software, we're going to do it all, and you're going to buy it as a turnkey solution, versus Android, of course, which separates out the operating system from the hardware very, very distinctly. And if that happens, companies that decide to remain proprietary could get sidelined potentially. I don't know what the actual answer will be. They could get sidelined, and these companies that decide to license out their hardware could end up with a much larger market share than companies that decide to keep it all proprietary, or the whole thing could fail at this point because the hardware is still way too new. But even if it fails now, my prediction is that we will actually see this happen in time. So even if you have to have a proprietary stack right now, because the hardware and the software is far too nascent, it hasn't really developed enough yet. If that is the case, then maybe in another 4 or 5 years, that won't be the case anymore. And so at some point in the relatively near future, we will see this division of hardware and software. And what you'll see is a hardware company that will build the hardware and then a base level operating system that makes the thing actually move around and do basic things. And then on top of that, there could be potentially hundreds of software companies that create niche software applications that sit on top of the base hardware and base software stack. And that's a really cool possibility that I don't know why I hadn't really thought about it too much yet, but it was very exciting to see that, because that really means it could open it up to a lot more companies than I expected. I expected there would only be on the order of 10 or so of these robotics companies that would ever really make it big, and the other ones would just go away. But if these companies are willing to license out their hardware and allow other companies to build the software, well, then you could have hundreds to thousands of companies building software on top of these hardware stacks. And that really expands the pie, and it makes me very, very happy to think about that. And then, because we always have to have a dose of reality, and Brett Adcock is great for providing that kind of a thing, we have a response to Mind On and to Chris Paxton. He said, it looks like this is an open loop replay reinforcement learning controller. So it's moving blind without perception, and it's running an open loop replay. So basically what he's saying is it's doing a sort of pre-programmed sequence of movements without really understanding where it is within the environment. And of course, when I say program, quote unquote program, I don't mean programming like in the traditional sense, but it's a neural network that has been trained to do a specific activity, and the robot is not reacting to the environment. It's actually just doing a pre-programmed set of tasks. And then he continues, then at the end, when they grab the objects showing perception in the loop, right? That's when the guy's moving the teddy bear. They removed the no teleoperation language from the bottom right of the video and human teleopt it. And so with that in mind, let's take a look at this again. So we've got, it says no speed up, no teleoperation, of course, in their main sort of slate here, but then it does not say that here. So that's interesting. So So this could definitely be teleoperated. Maybe they forgot to put it in. I'm not exactly sure, but I want to make a note. So it definitely does not have that text there, but there is another sequence here where it's picking up these objects and the child brings in the other toys. This specifically says no teleoperation, and you can see that it is reacting to new stuff in the environment, which means it can't be doing it completely blind. It has to be somehow sensing the environment and understanding that that kid just brought a whole bunch of new things. So yeah, okay, fine. He's right. It doesn't say no teleoperation. Very interesting that it's right after it has a giant slate that says no speed up, no teleoperation, and then it goes away. So again, it's possible that that is an editing mistake, that they just forgot to put that in there, but it's also kind of weird that there's this big slate that happens there and then it goes away. So he could be right. He could be right that it might be something where this is just an open loop reinforcement sort of thing, but it sure does feel like it's actually reacting to stuff. And you could make an argument here that all of this stuff, if you very, very carefully place everything versus like an Isaac Gym, virtual world, and put it all in there, that it would just be doing this reinforcement learning loop over and over again with these objects in exactly the same place they are in the virtual world. But I think that this particular thing right here, where the child brings in this extra stuff, means that it has to be reacting to the real environment. It can't all just be pre-programmed. And quite frankly, it would be very difficult to place all of these soft objects exactly in the right place. Maybe he's right. Maybe that last part is not autonomous. Maybe it is teleoperated, but this is definitely no teleoperation. It's autonomous. So unless they're literally lying about this, this is definitely being done autonomously without teleoperation. Now, again, we can look at the hands. The hands are very, very simple. They're rudimentary, but it's able to do quite a few tasks. And again, Scott and I just talked about this yesterday as I record this video. We talked about how there's a good enough hardware stack, and this looks good enough to do a lot of chores. It doesn't necessarily have to have 22 degree of freedom hands to be able to replicate the human hand to do quite a bit of useful activities around the house and of course in a factory. So my overall takeaway here is this is amazing progress from a company that's only been in existence about 6 months. And the huge advantage they have here is that they've split out hardware and software. Being able to go at software speeds with a predefined hardware platform in the Unitree robot here means they can race ahead with software speeds and not get stuck on hardware, which is a really, really clever move. And if that takes off and becomes the norm, that's going to really change the landscape of humanoid robotics. And I, for one, am very excited about that. Alrighty, folks, that's what I've got for you today. Let me know in the comments what you think about all of this. Are you as excited as I am? Let me know. While you're down there, if you don't mind liking the video, it really helps things out, and also consider subscribing for more of this kind of content. And finally, a big thanks once again to Shortform for sponsoring today's video. Be sure to check out my link in the description to get a free trial and 3 months off the annual plan, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.